Claire and I had built what I thought was a very strong foundation for our relationship, even after spending a brief period navigating the difficulties of long distance. I finally returned home with the intention of marrying her, only to discover that she had already married another man. When I confronted her, she was visibly distressed and told me that Julian had made some sort of wager with an acquaintance, and she had only married him to help him out of a bind. She insisted there was no romantic connection between them and promised they would be getting a divorce very soon. To compensate for the fact that this technically made her a divorcee, she offered to transfer another 10% of her company shares to me. She shook my arm gently, her typically composed facial expression replaced by a look of desperate pleading. "Honey, you have always been a career-focused man. You aren't going to let the small details bother you, are you? Right? But not entirely. Because if you ruin the small details, there is nothing left to worry about, is there?" I had come back early from my assignment overseas specifically to surprise Claire. When I found that my key no longer unlocked the front door, I didn't think too much of it at the time and simply called the building's management office. I had always kept the property manager's contact information saved. He let me into the unit, only for both of us to discover a large wedding photograph of Claire and another man hanging in the most obvious place in the expansive living room. The young manager's eyes went wide with absolute disbelief. I felt a deep sense of humiliation and panic, my entire body trembling with the shock of the discovery. I tried to force myself to remain calm, but my heart continued to hammer against my ribs. Claire came screeching up to the building in her car and rushed inside, stumbling so badly in her haste that she had to grab the doorframe to steady herself. She hurried to my side, grabbing my hands and explaining everything in a breathless rush. "I floored the gas pedal the second I got the call from the management office, and I ran a few red lights just to get here and explain things to you." She caught her breath and continued. "Ethan, please don't get the wrong idea. Julian is your cousin, and you were the one who asked me to look after him. He is young and reckless. He made a stupid bet with someone, and I only married him to help him out of the situation. It all happened so fast that I didn't have time to talk to you about it. But no matter what, it is my fault for becoming a divorcee. As a starting point, I will give you 10% of my shares in the company. Anything else you want to do to punish me, I will accept it." I looked around the room blankly. Did I even have a choice in the matter? Julian was my aunt's son. Before she passed away, she had begged me to take care of him. Before I went abroad, I had asked Claire to handle a lot of things for me, and looking after Julian was one of them. But I never expected him to go from being a nobody to acting like the man of the house. It took me a long time to process anything that was happening. Claire's face was filled with regret. She held my hand, looking like a sad kitten, her eyes begging for my forgiveness. Just then, the front door opened easily from the outside. Julian, not noticing us at first, casually slipped on his house slippers, put down his car keys, and expertly hung up his bag and jacket. I glanced at the watch on his wrist. It was a new model from a luxury brand that hadn't even been released in the country yet. Getting one would have taken some serious effort and connections. I shot a questioning look at Claire. Just as she was about to explain, Julian saw us. His face froze for a second before he composed himself. A friendly smile quickly appeared on his face. He came over, grabbed my arm, and spoke affectionately. "Hey man, I borrowed your fiancée for a bit while you were away. You don't mind, right?" Then he suddenly covered his mouth, as if he had misspoken. "Oops, that was so thoughtless of me. Listen to what I'm saying." He tapped himself on the head and shot Claire a helpless, pleading look. Claire reassured him immediately. "Your cousin is a big-picture guy. Of course he won't get worked up over this. Not everyone is as childish as you are." Childish? I couldn't help but let out a laugh. He was only 3 years younger than me. I was his cousin, not his uncle. A few other guys followed him in, chattering loudly as they entered. They all found slippers and put them on like they owned the place. One of them went right into the kitchen to get everyone water. When he noticed me, he asked Julian, "Who is this guy? Does he want juice or water?" Julian answered before I could speak. "Water is fine for him." I actually laughed out loud at that. This was my house. The deed was in my name. I was about to say something, but Claire quickly cut me off, explaining to Julian's friends, "This is his cousin. He just got back from overseas and came by to see him." The guys looked relieved. "Oh, so you are just here to see Julian. We thought something serious was going on." They pointed to one of the guys in the group. "It is his birthday today. We are having a party here. A lot more people are coming later. Hope your fiancée doesn't mind," one said. I froze for a second. The fiancée they were referring to was Claire, and the brother they were talking about clearly wasn't me. My brain short-circuited for a moment. So Claire really was married. I shook my head, just wanting to get out of there. One of Julian's friends spoke up again. "I heard Julian's cousin has been abroad for a long time, a real career shark. Julian didn't even dare to bother you to buy him that watch. Your fiancé had to find a personal shopper and get on a special wait list for it. I was wondering what line of work you are in, Mr. Vance. I am finishing my master's degree and can't find an internship. I was hoping you could help me out." I just wanted to leave. "Ask your fiancée. She has got more pull than I do." But the young man pleaded even more desperately. "Please, sir, I was too slow. She already arranged internships at the company for a few of Julian's other friends. There is no room left for me. It is such a coincidence running into you today. Please give me a chance, Mr. Vance." I gave Claire a cold look and saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. She looked like she wanted to say something to me but held back. I handed the young man my business card. "Email me your resume." As I turned to go upstairs, I suddenly noticed the photo wall was now covered with glamour shots of Julian. They were on the sideboard, and the dresser, too. A scornful smile crept onto my face. Julian suddenly called out, "Cousin, you must be tired from your long flight and the jet lag. We are having a party later, and it is going to be loud. It might bother you, so maybe—" He trailed off, but his intention to kick me out was obvious. I had finally lost my patience. "I am going upstairs to lie down for a bit." One of the smarter friends asked, "Why is your cousin resting here? We are really going to disturb him." Sensing trouble, Claire cut in before I could speak again. "Your cousin has never seen you guys in action. I will take him home to rest in a bit. You all have fun." At this point, Claire was right about one thing. I had come back to handle big things. There was some small stuff I wasn't going to let slide, but first I needed to rest. I got into the car with Claire. She held the passenger door open for me. I sat in the back seat instead. Then I closed my eyes to rest. After a long silence, I glanced over and saw her still standing there, frozen, holding the door open. I scoffed. "Sister-in-law, do I need to invite you to get in the car?" Claire looked even more embarrassed. She quickly got into the driver's seat and started the car. On the way, she kept watching me through the rearview mirror, carefully gauging my expression. I pretended not to notice. When we arrived at one of my apartments near the office, I found a cleaning crew tidying up the place. I used to crash here when I worked late at the office. Now that I needed to move in suddenly, Claire had called them in a rush. She had certainly had a busy day. I was exhausted and sleepy, but I had nowhere to go. I had to wait at a nearby coffee shop. After giving the cleaners their instructions, Claire hurried over to find me. She took my hand, which was holding my coffee cup, and said with deep apology, "Ethan, I am so sorry to put you through this. Besides the shares, I will do everything I can to make it up to you. I know what I did was out of line, a total lack of boundaries. It won't happen again. Honestly, I only started dealing with Julian because you asked me to. That is the only reason I got involved. But then I got in too deep." She quickly raised her hand as if swearing an oath. But I never got emotionally involved. I know I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Are you feeling guilty? I asked suddenly. Claire froze. I was deeply suspicious of her actions, yet she dared to swear her loyalty to me. But right now, all I wanted was to sleep, so I got up to leave. Claire quickly grabbed my hand. Where are you going? Then she lowered her head in frustration. The apartment isn't clean yet. You have to wait a little longer. I gathered my energy and said to her, I can't go back to my own home. I have become the other man in my own relationship. Have I said anything to you? Right now I just want to sleep. Can you grant me that? Claire looked at me with a hint of fear. Where are you going? A hotel, I said, walking away without looking back. Claire ran after me. Ethan, don't be mad. If you stay this mad, I don't know what to do. Tell me, what will it take for you to stop being angry? I didn't break my stride. You will do whatever I say? She nodded eagerly. I finally stopped and looked at her carefully. She met my gaze, her expression a mix of calm and panic. Let's start by transferring those shares. You have brought it up several times and it would be rude of me to keep refusing. 10% doesn't show much sincerity. Let's make it 20. If she was going to be shameless, why should I pretend to be noble? She stared at me, shocked. Didn't you say you were desperate for sleep? I smiled sweetly. I am suddenly not tired anymore. It is your fault for not letting me go. She let out a small sigh of relief, a genuine smile finally appearing on her face. Okay, I will have my lawyer draw up the papers. I replied nonchalantly, Don't bother. I will have my own lawyer draft them. Fear flickered in her eyes again. Ethan, you don't trust me? No, I said, my eyes cold. You aren't worthy of my trust. Ethan, I walked away without another word. A woman who doesn't understand her own responsibilities is a terrifying thing. The first thing I did after I woke up was to arrange the equity transfer with Claire. A woman's guilt is more effective than her love. I had to strike while the iron was hot. Claire's face was grim as she accepted the documents. At the same time, she handed me another file. Look at this. I opened it. It was still an unconditional transfer of 10% of her shares. But my request for an additional 10% had been changed to an additional 20%. Only this portion came with conditions. The condition was that it would be automatically and freely transferred to me after we got married. I looked at her, puzzled. What do you mean? She lowered her gaze, her long eyelashes casting dark shadows. When she looked up again, her usual cool composure had returned. Ethan, I know you too well. After this thing with Julian, I am afraid you are going to drift away from me. But it was an honest mistake. You have to give me a chance. So I need to tie myself to you. My expression turned grave, my face a stony mask as I stared at her. Claire and I were both family outcasts. We had worked together to reclaim some of our inheritances and then built our company into what it was today. If she gave me 30% of her shares, I would become the majority shareholder with absolute control. I could even kick her out of the company. I couldn't figure her out anymore. The dying embers of hope in my heart seemed to flicker back to life. Claire, as if a great weight had been lifted, let out a long breath and gazed at me. Filled with hope, I hesitated for a moment before asking, When are you divorcing him? I dropped everything to come back and marry you. You know that. She froze. After a long pause, shame crept back onto her face. Ethan, I promised Julian I would divorce him after a year. I can't go back on my word. What? A year? I was speechless with shock. Then I said instinctively, "Doesn't that officially make me the other man? This is unacceptable. In our business, reputation is everything." A huge rift now lay between us. I stared at her, unblinking. This time, Claire didn't apologize or make excuses. She felt that the contract was proof enough of her sincerity. Now that I had it, I should be willing to pay a price. In the end, I signed the document. After all, 10% was still a freebie. Just as I handed the papers to my lawyer, Julian burst in. He snatched the documents from the lawyer's hands, tore them to shreds, and scattered the pieces over my head. Then he stood in front of Claire protectively. His eyes were red. "Cousin Claire was just helping me out. I don't know what nerve she hit, but you can't punish her like this. I can't stand by and watch. If it is a relationship problem, talk it out. Why are you taking her shares? Are you that greedy for money?" He wiped the corner of his eye and said defiantly, "You are secretly thinking Claire and I are hooking up, aren't you?" "Fine, I admit it. I had ulterior motives. I am a toxic person. I lusted after my own cousin's fiancée. I am a pretty boy, a scumbag. Are you satisfied now? Take your anger out on me. Give Claire her shares back. You shouldn't take that money." A look of approval flashed across Claire's cool face before vanishing. Then she scolded him. "Julian, this is between your cousin and me. Stay out of it. From the day I helped you, I knew I would have to face the consequences." I had returned in a hurry and didn't have time for their drama. "Please get me another blank copy," I said. Then, turning to the stunned lawyer, I asked, "Do you still want this job? Go call security." When Julian realized what was happening, his eyes immediately reddened. "You don't have to throw me out. I will leave on my own." He glanced at Claire, who immediately stood up. "I will walk you out." "Wait," I stopped Claire. "The documents aren't signed yet." Claire pressed her lips together, took out another copy, signed it with frustrated impatience, and tossed it at me. I smiled and asked her, "His timing is impeccable today. How did he know about the contents of this document? Did you tell him?" "Right, you two are a married couple. You should discuss everything together." Claire froze, about to explain, but Julian tugged on her sleeve again, wanting her to walk him out. Claire didn't budge, just stared at me blankly. Julian let out an irritated "Tisk," and left fuming. I ignored them and went back to reviewing the documents. Claire stood there frozen for a long time. I had helped my cousin Julian with many things over the years. After his mother died, I helped his family pay off their mortgage, covered his father's medical bills and Social Security, and funded him through high school and college. He spent 2 years as an exchange student abroad, which was incredibly expensive. When he couldn't get into a graduate program here or finish one abroad, he managed to become a visiting scholar, another huge expense. And during all those years I was helping him, my own life wasn't easy, especially at the beginning. Now that he had latched onto someone powerful, it was time to settle the score. I figured he wouldn't dare stiff me on such a small amount of money. I went to his office but couldn't find him. A colleague pointed to a hidden spot near a flower bed outside. Julian was on the phone, his expression grave. I sensed something was off. Turning on my phone's voice recorder, I walked over. "That bed is between you and me. Don't you dare tell a soul. Remember, if Claire finds out, I am finished." "What? Win over Claire within a year? I can't do that. But my dear cousin can't stand impurities. He will leave on his own. I will just wait to take his place. These days morality is just a chain. What successful man doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve?" Julian was right about one thing. I could be a bit too rigid. That evening, I returned to the home Claire and I once shared, this time with a professional photographer. We took countless pictures of their wedding portrait and all the other traces of their life together. When I got home, I was suddenly struck by a fever and collapsed. The high temperature left me delirious. I was aware of Claire visiting, but I couldn't get up. Claire carefully questioned the home health aide about my condition and then personally went to the kitchen to make me some simple broth and soup. Afterward, she sat by my bed watching me for a long time. "What do you plan to do with those photos? I have known you for years and never asked you for anything, but this time I am begging you not to expose this and embarrass Julian. I have come this far. I don't want it all to be for nothing. Julian isn't a bad person. He won't fight you for anything. Objectively speaking, don't you? Think he has a good moral compass? You used to care for him so much, didn't you? I will buy your house from you. Let's just end this here." She sighed. "Honestly, I regret it too. But it really was just a small thing. Can't you just let it go?" When I came to my senses, there was a home purchase agreement on my pillow with the price left blank. There was also a blank check. And finally, a note in Claire's elegant, carefree handwriting. "Fill in whatever you want, as long as it makes you feel better. P.S. It is all your money sooner or later anyway," followed by a smiley face. My house, including renovations, was worth $15 million. I wrote $50 million on the check. Once I had recovered, I met with Claire to handle the property transfer. The moment she saw me, her expression was momentarily unnatural before she tried to affectionately take my hand. I subtly moved it away. While waiting for our number to be called, Claire ducked into a quiet corner to take a call. I happened to be getting hot water from the dispenser nearby. I heard Claire say, "It is a bit more money than I expected, but it is okay. I know him. He is just so insecure that he fixates on money like this. You are a good man. Not everyone has your perspective on money." In the quiet space, I could tell she was talking to Julian. When she turned and saw me standing behind her, Claire's face froze. She quickly hung up. I looked at her with a smirk. "Regretting the money? I thought people like you were above discussing money, and I certainly never expected you to gossip behind someone's back." Claire quickly explained, "It is not what you think. You are taking it out of context again." I shook my head. "That $50 million doesn't just cover the house. It includes all the money I spent on Julian over the years. You have essentially bought his freedom. So congratulations. The house and the man are both yours now." Claire's face turned purple with rage. "You have a nasty way with words. Don't worry, there is someone waiting for you whose values align perfectly with yours." "Sister-in-law." "Ethan!" I remembered Julian saying I would step aside and he would just pick up the pieces. They liked ambiguity, so I decided to play along and not mention it just to see what would happen. Julian invited me to his birthday party. I declined. In Claire's office, she was standing by a filing cabinet while Julian, clutching her clothes, was practically pressed against her. "What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Every year my cousin celebrated with me. He even gave me expensive presents. Now he is ignoring me. I can't go on." Claire patted his head while continuing to look for a file. "Then go apologize to him." "You come with me." I knocked on the half-open door. I could see the two of them quickly jump apart. At the office, Claire was my girlfriend. In Julian's circle, she was his wife. She switched roles so effortlessly. After getting a response, I pushed the door open and walked in. Julian greeted me brazenly. "Cousin?" I ignored him. I handed a file to Claire. "Sister-in-law, here is what you wanted." Claire's hand trembled as she took the file. Just then, another employee came in. "Mr. Vance, you are here too? Perfect. Mr. Harrison Sr. has invited you both to his golden anniversary party. Are you free that day?" Claire answered, "Yes, we are. It is an important event, so we will make time." At the same time, I answered, "No, we can't go. That party is only for couples who have been together for more than 10 years. We can't go." Claire's face stiffened. Julian's eyes grew red. The employee mumbled, "But you two have been together for over 10 years, so you are on the invitation list." I smiled and shook my head. The over 10 years part is true, but as for... Claire's face turned pale. On Julian's birthday, my grandfather, who was sick in bed, asked me to deliver his gift to Julian personally. So I went after all. The party was in full swing. Someone was holding up a wedding album, pointing to a photo and shouting, "I am a photographer and I can tell this kissing photo is fake. It is a forced perspective shot. You must have been too shy in front of the photographer. I don't care. I demand you kiss for real right now, and I will take the picture." The crowd started cheering and egging them on. They started pushing the two of them together. Julian stumbled and fell into Claire's arms. Claire caught him steadily. Both of them were beaming. As the crowd roared, Julian leaned in to kiss Claire, but accidentally bumped her chin. Pushed by the crowd, Claire lost her balance, and their lips suddenly pressed together. At first, Claire's eyes went wide, and she forgot to push him away. By the time she reacted, Julian had wrapped his arms around her neck, deepening the kiss. The crowd went wild. As if by instinct, Claire glanced over the crowd and saw me standing at the edge of the circle. She shoved Julian away without a second thought. Her face turned cold and stern. She started pushing through the crowd to get to me, but Julian grabbed her. His face was panicked, and he shook his head at her. Claire hesitated, then gave up on coming over, trying to placate me with her eyes instead. Just then, one of Julian's college roommates spotted me. We had met when I was arranging for Julian's study abroad. They insisted on pulling me into the center of the crowd. After telling everyone about all I had done for Julian, they all sighed. If I had a cousin like that, I would give up 10 years of my life. Claire's expression was complicated. Julian's eyes welled with tears. He told the crowd, "I did something wrong and made my cousin angry." I said flatly, "What wrong thing? I don't know anything about it." Julian was speechless, his tears stopping in their tracks. From a short distance away, Mr. Harrison Jr.'s voice rang out. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "Claire, you are here too. You two skipped my parents' golden anniversary to have your own party? You think old people are boring?" He then added jokingly, "Only couples of 10 years or more are qualified to attend. You two really don't know what is good for you." The laughter and chatter suddenly died down. I looked at Claire. "You want to explain?" For the first time, Claire's usually calm face showed genuine panic. The fire could no longer be contained. Claire sighed, about to step forward and explain something, but she opened her mouth several times and couldn't get the words out. At that moment, Julian stepped up. He swallowed his shame, his face resolute. "It was me. It was all my fault. I got mixed up with bad friends and made a bet. It was my sister-in-law, Claire, who helped me by marrying me to solve the crisis. I didn't know it would cause all this. I regret it so much. I am sorry, cousin. I am sorry, Claire. Now that I have finally taken responsibility, I hope you won't blame her anymore. She is a good person. Please cherish her." Someone started clapping. Others looked at me, expecting me to say something. What was I supposed to say? I just scoffed. After the farce was over, Claire found me, furious. "You called Harrison Jr. here, didn't you? That is what Julian thinks too. Things like that don't just happen by coincidence." I looked at this stranger before me and shook my head. This is something a simple breakup could solve. Why would I make it so complicated? Claire's anger flared. "You standing on your moral high ground. You would never let a cheating couple like us off so easily. Getting revenge is more your style." I suddenly laughed. Have you never once suspected Julian's intentions? He is just a naive kid who hasn't seen the world. What bad intentions could he have? I thought of the recording I had of Julian. Morality is just a chain. What successful man doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve? I had originally planned to play it for Claire at the right moment, but now I felt that the right moment didn't matter at all. I could win back a person, but I couldn't save her soul. So when I release, it is entirely up to me. In the underground parking garage, Claire and Julian were facing each other. Claire's face was cold. I was originally going to take the fall for you on this, no matter what, but things didn't go as planned. I will make it up to you in other ways later. Julian suddenly threw himself into Claire's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Caught off guard, Claire stumbled back 2 steps, but she still instinctively held on to him. Julian sobbed. Claire, I never thought you would take a bet made by a nobody like me so seriously. I am already so grateful for everything you have done. Let me be the one to make it up to you. My cousin is still mad, isn't he? It is my fault for ruining your relationship. I will go explain everything to him right now. Claire shook her head. He is a smart man. He doesn't need an explanation. He is just trying to make things difficult for you on purpose. I stepped out of the shadows. When Claire saw me, she didn't push Julian away. She looked at me openly without a trace of guilt. I pulled out my phone and video called Harrison Jr. How did you happen to show up where Claire and I were today? He answered casually. I had had a few too many and was looking for the restroom. What? Did I walk into some soap opera? The Harrison family was prominent and powerful. There was no way he would lie or act in a play for me. Claire's eyes widened in shock as she looked at me. For the first time, I realized how naive Claire could be. She suspected the innocent and trusted the deceitful. The truth is, she cheated. Once she had a favorite, her judgment became completely skewed. I hung up the phone, I stared at Claire and said, "There are indeed things more important than money in this world, but you have to be worthy of them." I went back to the office for a meeting to delegate my work before heading abroad again on business. I also appointed a deputy CFO to help me keep an eye on the company's operations. From this day forward, I would be aware of every single matter in the company, big or small. Claire sensed my crisis mode maneuvering and began to panic. She wanted to knock on my office door, but hesitated several times. Finally, as if she had made up her mind, she left the company. The next time I saw her, she was holding a small red booklet. I am divorced. Then she knelt, holding up a ring. Marry me. I was silent for a long time, then suddenly laughed. Didn't you already propose? Why are you doing it again? She shook her head, her eyes red. It is different. I did something wrong and I need your forgiveness. Does Julian approve? Claire froze. What does he have to do with it? Weren't you two always discussing everything? Claire looked embarrassed for a moment. I was a bit clueless before. I thought since he was your family he wouldn't give me bad advice, so I let some things slip in conversation. That is what caused the misunderstandings. I smiled faintly, feigning honesty. Once we are married, that document becomes effective. But Claire was pouring her heart out. Ethan, I have a clear understanding of myself. I am capable, but I am not that ambitious. I would rather enjoy the peace after building an empire, while you love to keep pushing forward. You are better suited to run the company than I am. Even if you kick me out after we are married, I will still get substantial dividends as a shareholder. And I have other things I enjoy doing. I am a science person. I could set up a research lab to develop new products for the company. That might even help the company grow. I smiled brilliantly. Claire spoke with heartfelt sincerity, but her clenched fists betrayed her. She didn't like giving up power. Women might be more resilient than men in their careers, but when faced with a failing relationship, they are also more likely to compromise, trading power for stability. But in the current situation, if Claire didn't show enough sincerity to move me, we were likely headed for a split. The company's future would also be uncertain. Things had spun out of her control. The situation was far more complex and difficult than she had imagined, so she had to bite the bullet. "I agree to marry you," I answered briskly. Joy slowly spread across Claire's face, and she smiled with deep relief. She slipped the ring on my finger. It was a perfect fit. "Thank you for being willing to marry me twice." "But I have conditions," I said. Claire flinched reflexively. "We need to get the license today." I smiled. "Just today. Whether you can do it or not is up to you." Claire looked at me uncertain. I added, "We will get the license but won't tell anyone. We will announce it at the wedding." Claire asked, "What do you mean? Just answer yes or no." "Yes, of course, yes." From 18 to 28, thank God I didn't waste my best years trying to figure out one woman. It is hard for one person to ever truly know another. What is 10 years? Some people don't figure it out after decades. With the marriage certificate in hand, I had my lawyer process the transfer of the other 20% of the shares. At the same time, I brought in more of my people to strengthen my control over the company. I also had a lawyer draft a prenuptial agreement for Claire and me to sign. What a joke. There was no way I wasn't going to firmly grasp the 30% of Claire's shares that were now in my hands. The law has provisions for prenuptial assets, but I had a lawyer make it even more explicit. This was my reward for all the humiliation I had endured. I had been holding back for a long time. The cost was high. Since we were settling prenuptial assets, it inevitably brought up Claire's first marriage. Claire said to me, trying to be conciliatory, "A fake marriage is a fake marriage. Julian and I had a solid prenup. What is mine, and Julian isn't an unreasonable person." I couldn't help but cut her off. "You think he is reasonable just because he doesn't want your money? You have really low standards for people. You helped him. Shouldn't he be the one giving you money?" Claire was stunned. After a long, awkward pause, she said, "I thought of him as your relative, so I was a little kinder to him." I said firmly, "From today on, he and I have no relationship whatsoever. Now that the bridge between you is gone, is there any need for you two to stay in touch?" Claire froze again before responding after a moment. "Actually, you don't have to be so heartless. He is your family after all." A sarcastic smile spread across my face. "Family? I really do have a great family." Claire added, "Sai, this was my fault too. I should have stayed out of it, but the situation was really critical at the time." I replied, "We live in a society with laws, in a civilized world. What couldn't be resolved through official channels that required you to play the hero?" Claire told me the story of Julian's troubles again. It was the same old tale. He had pissed off a rich kid named Donovan, a nasty piece of work who preyed on people with no connections. Julian found out about Claire's influence and begged her to protect him. But Donovan didn't believe they were connected because he had never heard of them having any relationship. So Julian suggested they get a marriage license and take wedding photos. Because Donovan was a notorious, reckless punk in their circle, Claire stepped in for Julian. Claire had told me this story over and over again. I was sick of hearing it. This time, I warned her again. "Donovan is bad news. I hear he is a real piece of work. Stay away from him or it won't end well." I said this casually, just to keep the conversation from dying, not out of any real concern. I had gotten what I wanted. I couldn't just turn on her immediately. We had both fought for our share from our respective families. Claire had gotten more money than me and invested more in the company, so naturally she became the chairwoman. Now, because of a relationship issue, she had handed over her shares. The least I could do was give her some face. But that night when Claire wanted to stay at my place, I refused. I explained, "I don't know Julian, and I don't know what his personal life was like when he was abroad. I have had a hard road to get where I am. It is not worth the risk of catching some disease." Claire blinked, the implication finally dawning on her. Her face flushed. "Ethan, what do you take me for? How could I have slept with Julian?" I replied calmly. The day I came back unexpectedly, my home was filled with men's products that weren't mine. "Are you telling me you two weren't sleeping together in my house?" Claire's eyes turned red. "Am I that disgusting in your eyes?" I replied, just as coldly, "As if you have any idea what is appropriate and what isn't." I added, "Go get tested. A full panel for every STD. Give me the report. We will talk in 3 months." My grandfather called me over for dinner. Sure enough, Julian was there, though he didn't look well. He was probably disappointed that I hadn't flown into a rage and broken up with Claire. This whole ordeal taught me a lesson. You have to be both firm and flexible, not just chase after black and white truths. And so I didn't fall into his trap. But it was a close call. I almost fell for it. I looked at the boy I had protected as he grew up and gave a cryptic smile. My grandfather kept piling food onto my plate, urging me to eat more. "Brothers don't hold grudges overnight," he said. "Julian is just a bit thoughtless. Don't hold it against him." So he had called for reinforcements. Some relatives love to smooth things over without solving anything. Give them an inch, and they will take a mile. Years ago, my parents had earned shares while building up my maternal grandfather's company. After they died, suddenly, my uncle held on to those shares and gave me a hard time. I was the one who fought to get that money back. My grandfather and the others just sat back and enjoyed the benefits. But for now I just smiled and replied, "You should focus on happier things, Grandpa. Like how much money your grandson made on his latest trip, or how your grandson is getting married and you will soon have 4 generations under one roof. As for Julian, didn't he say he was going to get married before me? How come there is no news? Oh wait, I almost forgot. You already—" "Ethan!" Julian cut me off hastily. So he was capable of shame. The innocent, worldly wise boy persona, that whole surprising depth act, turns out it only works on women. The fact that he married my fiancée was something he still had to hide from our grandfather. I stared at him, and Julian's eyes reddened. I continued to provoke him. "Julian, do you want to be my best man? My fiancée's dress is custom-made from that designer you love. The groomsmen's tuxes are from the same collection. You could wear it to events after the wedding." Then I covered my mouth. "Oh, I just remembered. You can't be a groomsman." Then I laughed. "There is a tradition in our family that married men can't be groomsmen." He knew crying in front of our grandfather wouldn't help, so the tears welled up in his eyes, but didn't fall. But this time the tears were real, the sting of a failed scheme. On the wedding day, everything was perfect. All the arrangements, from the ceremony to the decor, were exactly as I had envisioned for years. The bride was still the woman I had once adored. It was as if nothing had ever happened, as if it was all water under the bridge. Claire and I waited at the side of the stage. The officiant was rambling on, reminiscing about our past. He kept exchanging glances with me, a silent question. "Is it time to exchange rings?" I gave a barely perceptible shake of my head. I had to wait. I didn't believe he wouldn't make a move. Sure enough, Claire's phone rang. I was the one who had told her to keep it with her. While everyone's attention was elsewhere, Claire took out her phone and glanced at it. One look, and she froze. Then she started to panic. She tried to speak to me several times, but I wouldn't look at her. Finally, she said loudly, "Ethan, Julian is trying to kill himself. A life is at stake. I have to go see him." The moment her phone rang, I had switched on the lapel mic clipped to my suit. Now her loud voice boomed through the microphone, drowning out the officiant. A gasp went through the crowd. Claire froze too. She had probably planned to slip away quietly, leaving me to explain to the guests and deal with the mess, just like when she had secretly married Julian, leaving me humiliated and cornered. But there was no way I was falling into the same trap twice. I said calmly, "Who did you say is trying to kill himself? And you have to rush over? I didn't quite hear you." But everyone in the audience had heard clearly. "Julian? Julian?" His name was whispered over and over. Claire gritted her teeth. "Ethan, we are already legally married. A wedding is just a ceremony. How can it compare to a human life?" She said it ignoring the fact that my mic was on. How could I let her off the hook? "Julian is my cousin. I supported him for years. Many of his relatives are sitting in the audience. May I ask why he is calling you now that he is threatening suicide?" From the audience, a good friend of mine yelled, "Yeah, why call you at this exact moment? He just doesn't want you two to get married." Oh my God, I have never seen anything like it. The nerve of this homewrecker. I have truly seen it all now. Who would have imagined this before coming here? Claire still insisted. A life is on the line. I have to go. I grabbed her, my expression stern. Before you go, can you tell me what exactly is the relationship between you two? Claire said nothing, shook off my hand, and turned to leave. I swayed, almost losing my balance. I walked onto the stage, a wreck, my voice cracking several times. Finally, I managed to say, "Everyone look, this is what a 3-person marriage looks like. It is too crowded, isn't it?" I let out a long sigh. Finally, I forced myself to say, "A woman who can't get her priorities straight, who can't take responsibility, does not deserve to be at the helm of our company. Since all the shareholders are here, there is no time like the present. Today, as the majority shareholder, I am calling for a vote to replace the CEO." All the shareholders and key clients had brought their families to this wedding. Nobody likes being cheated on, man or woman. In front of their wives, every man, no matter his character, had to put on a show. And so my proposal was unanimously approved. A wedding turned into a board meeting to replace the chairman. I had achieved my goal. If I hadn't done it today, I don't know how long it would have taken to achieve a smooth, legitimate transfer of power without controversy. By the time Claire rushed back, the crowd had long since dispersed. My secretary and I were discussing the next steps. She came up to me panting. "Julian is fine. Good thing I got there in time." I scoffed. "How timely could you have been? Faster than the police? Quicker than an ambulance? More useful than a doctor?" Claire's face darkened. "Ethan, when did you become so cold-blooded?" I answered, the moment the person closest to me betrayed me. She sighed. "I know Julian wronged you. He developed feelings for me that he shouldn't have." I replied coldly, "You are only just realizing that? I have known for a while. You weren't just pretending not to know, were you?" Claire was at a loss for words. Then she said, "He is still your cousin. You should be a little more lenient with him." I looked up from my work to answer her. "Julian is an interesting person. What he needs has never been leniency. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done what he did. You are telling me to be lenient? Be careful that Boomerang doesn't come back and hit you." As soon as I finished, Claire's phone vibrated. She looked at the message. Someone had finally tipped her off that she had been ousted by the impromptu board meeting. Her eyes turned red with fury. "Ethan, you took advantage of a crisis." I smiled. "How does it feel to be betrayed by the person closest to you? Now you know." I laughed again. "It is not like you are earning a penny less. It is just that my burden has gotten a little heavier." Claire looked at me like I was a stranger, just as I had looked at her when I first returned. I taunted her again. "The bride running out on her own wedding. I thought you would come back ready to offer another punishment, maybe voluntarily step down. So I went ahead and took care of it for you." Claire stared at me in disbelief, stumbling back a few steps. Her eyes were sharp. "You planned this from the beginning, didn't you?" I quickly stopped her. "I had no idea Julian was going to threaten suicide. Don't make things up. You are making me sound like some kind of mastermind." Then I laughed mockingly. "The mastermind is someone else." "Just you wait," I added. "Being capable at work isn't the same as being manipulative. There is a big difference." Then I shook my head and said self-deprecatingly, "But I guess you can't tell the difference anyway." Claire collapsed into a chair, her expression a mix of defeat and accusation. "I have already paid the price. It is not right for you to be so passive-aggressive all the time." I laughed out loud. "You call this passive-aggressive? Have you ever met someone who is actually sharp-tongued? I have been giving you face, you know." I paused, then continued my assault. "To throw away your reputation and career for someone you barely know, you really are a fool for love. It is just a shame all that devotion was so misplaced." Claire, her face flushed, shot back. "How am I irresponsible? I am too responsible. I took my promise to Julian too seriously, and that is what led to this mess, isn't it?" At this point in the argument, I finally gritted my teeth and let my anger show. Keeping a promise is an admirable quality. A promise is a promise. But you have to know who deserves such a precious thing and who doesn't. Are you really that clueless? Or are you just playing dumb? Claire stared at me in shock. From the moment she married Julian until now, I had never lost my temper with her. She must have thought I didn't have one. After that momentary flash of true emotion, I reined in my anger and became calm again. Claire's gaze was a complicated mix of grief, scorn, and finality. After we parted on bad terms that day, I didn't see Claire for over a month. When I saw her again, she had regained her composure. She handed me a medical report. "I did all the tests you asked for. They are all negative. What about yours?" Her voice trailed off, laced with sarcasm. Of course I came prepared. I pulled out several reports. "These are from 3 consecutive months, 1 test per month. I have no concerns in that department. This is purely to deal with your baseless and unreasonable accusations. After all, I am not the type to just marry someone on a whim." The sadness on Claire's face was fleeting. Her eyes reddened, and she tried to grab my hand, but missed. She could only clutch my sleeve. "Ethan, I know I was wrong. From today on, let's start over, okay? The company is yours. I will go set up the R&D team." I gave another cold laugh. "You had better bring me 3 consecutive months of clean medical reports before we talk about anything. After all, some diseases have a very long incubation period. To be honest, I hadn't thought about how to wrap things up. But I knew there was one person I could count on. I also didn't know when to file for divorce. It was a difficult position, but I had seized control of the company. The feeling of holding all the power, of having everything in my grasp, was just too good. Without these worries dragging me down, I could finally go all out. Another month passed. Julian posted a photo on his social feed with the caption, "The rest of my life. Responsibility." Fate has given me a gift I cannot refuse. After many days, I went to Claire's office to find her. She was leaning on her desk, her head in her hands. Hearing me enter, she looked up. Her eyes were frighteningly red. Then she swiveled her chair around to face away from me. I thought at this point Claire was in checkmate. She just refused to admit defeat. I turned to leave, but she suddenly stood up, walked over to me, and her face was more humble than I had ever seen it. "Ethan, I am sorry. I didn't mean to betray you. On our wedding day, you turned the venue into a boardroom to impeach me. I figured since I already had a bad name, I might as well own it. It was just that one time. Really just once, out of spite. I never thought it would lead to this. Later, I will admit I was fooled by him, but ultimately we have no intellectual connection. We were never truly compatible. I really know I was wrong." I smiled thoughtfully. Tell him to handle his own affairs. Claire was beside herself with joy. And I placed the divorce papers on her desk. Claire stormed in to find me. There were employees in my office, but I didn't ask them to leave. I said it right in front of them. "Claire, legally that child has nothing to do with you, but Julian is the man you had an affair with. I will not let a single cent of my money go to that father and son. I warned you long ago that Julian was not simple, that you should stay away. Did you listen to a single word I told you? I had cut ties with him, so what does it mean that you were still in contact with him? What did you say to me back then? You told me to be magnanimous. You were certainly magnanimous to him, and he played you for a fool. Our prenup states that the unfaithful party must compensate the victim. We are done. Let's not make this uglier than it has to be." Claire stared at me for a long time. Finally, she said, "Everything is under your control, isn't it?" I laughed mockingly. "I didn't push you into his arms." Claire and I finally divorced. By then, her assets were no longer as substantial, and she was no longer so generous. She no longer threw around offers of giving me this or that percentage of shares. In the property settlement, she just gave me 2 extra sprawling apartment flats. I mocked her with a smile. "So frugal now, Ms. Liu? Saving up to buy baby formula for someone else's child?" Claire's face was stiff. She said nothing. The day we got our divorce decree, the sun was shining brightly. I thought it was time to bring out that recording. As we parted, I took the initiative and grabbed Claire's sleeve. She turned around, pleasantly surprised. "Ethan, I knew you couldn't bear to let me go." I turned the volume on the recording all the way up. A worldly, calculating voice, completely at odds with Julian's usual image, came out. "That bet is between you and me. Don't you dare tell a soul. Remember, if Claire finds out, I am finished." "What? Win over Claire within a year? I can't do that. But my dear cousin can't stand impurities. He will leave on his own. I will just wait to take his place. These days, morality is just a chain. What successful man doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve?" Although the tone was different, it was unmistakably Julian. Claire's face was as white as paper, her eyes staring blankly at me. It was as if she hadn't heard the recording. Only when people around us started whispering did she snap back to reality. When she looked at me, tears started to fall. "Why didn't you warn me sooner? You have had this for a long time." I couldn't hide the smile on my face. "I warned you many times, but you weren't the least bit suspicious. How was I to know you would be this stupid, that you would need hard evidence before you would wake up?" Later, Claire left the city. She ignored Julian, true to her word. "If you want child support, take me to court. I will pay whatever the court orders." Julian was abandoned by friends and family. The people who had partied in my house all claimed they had only heard of him but didn't know him. My grandfather's family wouldn't open the door for him, saying that in the old days his legs would have been broken. He pounded on the door desperately, finally stopping when he sent the old man to the hospital with a heart attack. As for the company, I was firmly in control. Anyone who dared to question me was clearly hiding their own affair and just looking for an outlet. In the months that followed, I would receive postcards from different places. Sometimes they contained a few words, sometimes just a postmark. I knew they were from Claire. A long time ago, I had told her that the most romantic thing in the world was sending postcards while traveling. Unfortunately, she hadn't really listened to me in a long time. Now she was even remembering things from the distant past. At an age when he should have been building a family, Ethan Vance didn't get a home. But he did get the world. A worthy partner to spend a lifetime with is a rare find, not something one can force. Once you figure that out, everything else falls into place.